First things first, how are you?
I'm doing very well. Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Good to hear.
Yeah.
What I want to start with is, I read somewhere that you've always felt a connection with Native American culture. When did it first become apparent to you? When did you notice it?
That's a very good question. I had kind of always grown up sensing it around me because of the part of the country that I was in was still very prominent, still very present. And then I guess the older I became, it just became more apparent that it was something that had always kind of sat very close to my heart. I think a lot of the First Nations and indigenous cultures throughout most of the world have not always had it easy, and a lot of stories of just pain and a lot of heartbreak. But I think the indigenous cultures all over the world their story will tell you that they're the strongest people, and especially in the States, they're still there, and it's a culture that's by societal standards should be forgotten and shouldn't have a place, should no longer have a place. But they're still there, and they still have a voice, and they're very strong people, and so I think I've always been inspired by that and looked up to them in that regard.
And when we turn in music, then how has the inspiration translated into kind of your drive or what you're doing?
Absolutely. I mean, that culture in particular is one that is so revolved around storytelling, and because that was the only way you could record things, and it was just so important for grandparents and parents to pass down stories and to pass down legacies through song and through story. And so to me, that's what art is. It's we're the storytellers, and so just being around and looking at a culture that's so prominent in storytelling is obviously very inspiring to me in that regard. Yeah. Sure.
Well, you mentioned songwriting. Do you remember maybe from your childhood one of the story writing, one of the stories that stuck with you?
Yeah, it's actually kind of in a way where I got my name from.
Okay.
There's a story called The Lost Boy, and it's basically this camp that there's a nomadic society, so they packed up and they moved camp, and this little boy got left behind, and by the time they realized it was too late. They went back for him. He was no longer there, and then this same tribe was warring with a different tribe years and years later, and this beautiful, strong warrior came down to them out of the mountains and helped them, and it was this boy that they had left behind, and he had been raised by the little people, which are live in the forests, and he had been raised and taught to be a great warrior by them, and he ended up coming back and saving them. And so I just thought it was like a very interesting story. I obviously like the name of it, and I feel like we all kind of need to, whether we get left or choose to leave, I think we all have to get outside of where we've been raised and what we've grown up with and come back to help, our people sort of later on after we've experienced these things and grown on our own. So that kind of always stuck out to me.
Is that a difficult thing to do?
To leave?
Well, no, to kind of come back and shit, because, well, the way society is these days. Is it for you, how do you experience this?
Yeah, it's very interesting. My own personal journey, I feel like I grew up on the road and road trips, and that's where I've always felt at home, is traveling. But I grew up in Portland, Oregon, is where I was born, and then I moved to Los Angeles, and that's where I really started doing Lostboycrow and making that music and going by that name, and that's the name I go by in my day-to-day life as well. And so it's been interesting coming back to the places and people that I grew up with after kind of living a different life almost in a way, and not that I'm a different person, but I've just kind of so been able to focus on the art and rediscover like who I've always been, even as a child. I think we lose that a lot. I think we lose kind of who we are as children, you know, the older we get, and having been able to go away to Los Angeles with, you know, start from nothing and kind of just figure it out, I've been able to kind of reinvent and recreate my childhood than now as an adult artist. And so, you know, there are a few people that are very close to me still from back home, and they're very supportive and they get it. But I'm sure it's always interesting going back after having been away and feeling like you've lived a different life. I mean, Los Angeles will do that to you too. I feel like I've lived there for 25 years. It just, time moves differently, and it's pretty surreal in that way. So
when you moved there, was it specifically for music?
It was. At the time, I didn't know what it was going to look like, but I did move down with a couple other musicians just because I always knew that I wanted to do music. I just didn't know what it looked like. And so I moved down there knowing that this is where a lot of people do music. And, you know, it ended up testing me.
In what way? Quick.
Because, you know, it's not easy to make money doing music, doing art right away, and so it'll really test, like, okay, A, do you really want to be doing this enough to try and make it work, and then B, you just have to make it work or you won't survive. And some people it takes a year, some people it takes 20 years, but Los Angeles is a very forgiving city in the sense that if you are talented and you want to do art and you work hard, it's just a matter of time. And for me, I was very fortunate to be able to get in the swing of doing Lostboycrow and playing these shows, you know, within like a year of living there, which is really fortunate. But yeah, it tested me, just not only financially, just with certain friendships and just artistic directions. It tested me because it's so saturated down there. You have to just have a vision or you'll get lost. And so it tested me, and I was able to find that vision and latch onto it, and then it you know, blessed me.
Was it a specific moment that you found your vision, or did it happen gradually?
I think it happened, I want to say gradually, but really, I mean, gradually over like the period of a couple months. I just started working with a friend who was from Oregon as well, but we didn't know each other until Los Angeles. And so when we started working together, I think we recorded like 4 songs in a couple weeks. And that's when I really knew, like, over those couple weeks, this is something different. This isn't just another project. This isn't just me trying to reach out to the world of music with how can I be a part of you? You know, this is my spirit, and this is my soul, and this is my songwriting, you know, combined with these sounds and this new direction. So over those couple months, you know, that's when I realized, you know, what I wanted to be doing, what I was just artistically, and even right down to the name Lostboycrow. And I think, but I do think it's a constant journey as well. You know, ever since then, you know, ever since I've found that direction of what is Lostboycrow, I think that's something I have to ask myself every day as well, and know, you know, otherwise people will tell you for you, you know.